Enjoy this episode of Low Moon Outsiders.
This is Low Moon Outsiders, starting a little bit behind. We're going to get after it. Today, the party will be finally arriving at Gull's Crossing. You have traveled for some time and took a little diversion into a huge fire giant lair and to the center of the volcano and a bandit-plagued forest in order to get here. So all of that has been done. And whence last we broke, you were standing looking upon the inn, the tavern, if you will. You were pleasantly surprised at exactly how fortified it looks. It looks fairly safe considering the messed up nature of the surrounding terrain and how much difficulty you've had in getting here. Well, I have the exact description, but I don't. Wait, yes I do. Nope, that's not it. This might be it. Okay. Anyway, it is a large compound, really, that is roughly 200 by 300 yards. So it is big. It is surrounded by a low stone wall. It's about 5 foot tall, and where it nears the actual tavern building, it rises to be more like 10 feet high. The front of the tavern looks a lot like the Alamo, if you've ever seen pictures of that. It has heavy wooden doors, and the doors themselves are red. And the carved stone of the building rises to a facade. You're looking down on it from kind of a hill, so you can kind of see down into the compound and see the roof. You can see that there is a well internal that's fairly big. There is a low-lying set of steps surrounding the well that leads down to the well. You can see a corral in the back that has 2 fairly large and beautiful, possibly warhorses in the corral. To the left on the corner of the compound, there is a water mill, basically, where the wheel is being turned by the river that leads to Gull's Crossing. So on either side of the crossing, there's the water is deeper. It gets deep pretty quickly, so it almost gives the appearance that the ford was somehow augmented at some point in time to be shallow. And you can see that where it crosses right in front of the inn, where it crosses, the water is no more than a couple of feet deep and very clear. And since you're getting here just after sunrise, it is sparkling as it babbles on past. What you do not see is any human activity whatsoever. You do see gulls diving in and out of the water, and you do see fish passing at the ford. And the gulls are primarily dipping into the water at the shallowest points, which is right at the crossing. My sound is very quiet. Why does my sound so quiet? 2. Okay. So, as you look down on it, you're probably a little over half mile away. You can see a winding path that starts just to your right and heads down to the crossing. You can also see what basically is a rough road that's pretty pitted and rutted from wagon and horse travel that leads to the crossing far out to your left. And then on this side of the crossing, the river forks and winds back to your left. So you are, as you are approaching it, you're kind of coming into the V, and so it gets pretty shallow at the crossing area, but you do have to cross a river yet. No matter how you slice it, you're going to have to cross a river. If you go right to where the fork is, it's probably there. It looks like it's probably about 4 or 5 feet deep still. You brought yourself out in probably the least convenient way to come to the inn, unless you're going to go back up to the right and find another place to ford this river that's coming down from the right. Okay. So what do you do? Mind you, you have large bags of money. Don't forget. Eric sits on one of the large bags of money and takes a break.
I suppose we should probably look for a bridge. I'm surprised they don't have one here.
Eric says, well, it looks like most people come from that way and go that way. This over here looks like dangerous territory. What I don't understand is, I guess all the way back up at the volcano, that's how we got on this side of that river. We'd have to say, we're going to cross that. We either have to go across it, get across it by some other means, or go all the way back up there. I mean, it's only 4 or 5 feet. The end's right there. I'm willing to wade through.
I'm sure I would be fine. I can carry the money.
How deep you said it was?
4 or 5 feet at the shallowest.
Though someone will have to carry this massive hammer.
Everyone says, you could just chuck it to the other side.
True, I could.
I am 5 feet at my highest, so.
Would you like a piggyback ride?
So it's not roaring by in any case. Like it's not like rapids. There is some white water at the edge of the ford because the water's pretty deep. It doesn't slowly narrow or slowly shallow. It comes up and it shallows pretty rapidly. So you can kind of see the water's rolling over right there. But on this side, it almost kind of seems to like a little waterfall underwater because it gets deep again pretty fast. But deep meaning 4 or 5 feet deep, not 10 or 20 feet deep. So the point is you can cross it with relative safety as long as you're careful. The gulls dive into the water, and about every second gull comes up with a fish.
So that's probably why they built the engine.
I say we just cross.
Sure.
Chiron hefts his bag of money and starts down the hill. He grunts slightly.
Okay, so the plan will just be those of us who are more likely to be swept, cross with somebody less likely to be swept. That way, should you fall, we can get you.
Okay.
Do you mention how fast the water is moving?
It is not moving quickly. I mean, it's faster than walking speed, but not, 6 mile an hour-ish. It'll be tough to walk against it, but it shouldn't push you over. Somewhere off in the distance, as you're coming down the hill and get a little closer, you begin to hear clanking noises. You can't see where they're coming from, and the back buildings are pretty covered by the building that is the inn, which is 3 stories, 50 foot across at the front, and 40 feet deep. So it's a pretty big building. Okay. All right. You make your way down the hill with relative ease, other than the sounds of like crushing grass and that kind of thing. Nothing out of the ordinary. You're nearing to the river. Okay. As you approach the fork of the river, which is where it is pretty well narrowest, so the fork is there, and then it's 4 or 5 feet deep there, and then about 20 feet past that is the ford. So you're pretty close to the ford. And as you get there, Liam finds something in the grass. He is carrying some money, but he's not carrying as much as everybody else. And he says, hey, there's a boot. And he picks it up and he looks in the boot and he says, and he throws the boot off into the grass.
Is there a foot still there?
Or something. Somebody wasn't done using it, I don't think. Right here, so close to the tavern. Better keep our eyes open, Herrick says.
You said the tavern's like dead silent. There's nobody there.
The only thing you've heard now is some pounding noises from the back area, like a smith working. It kind of almost looks more like a little town, really. It would pass for a keep, but it just doesn't have any like towers or like walls you can stand on. It is definitely a fortified manor, but very quiet. Other than the two beautiful horses that you saw in the corral in the back, right? You see the area of the well in the center, and the inner courtyard is cobblestone. But there's nobody at the well, no sign of anybody at the inn, and the front door is faced outside. So, like from on this side, there's a gate down to the left. But other than that, you would go into the inn. Like if you enter the compound, you would go through the tavern, basically. And the doors are currently shut. So you're at that point. So I would assume, actually, probably only Herrick and, which Herrick's actually reasonably strong. So that really only Liam is at risk of being swept away. So, okay. So Liam will position himself next to Lucas, and you will cross the river. Correct? Okay. It goes relatively uneventfully. Slipped foot for a second. The water twisted just slightly, whatever. But it was just enough to get you turned around and get you moving back. You move back in the right direction, that kind of thing, and everything's fine. Okay. All right. As you cross, when you come across the water, you're 40 feet from the front door. It's not like it's a long distance, and it's flat ground. The grass is pretty downtrodden. It's obviously walked on a lot. There are hitching posts on either side of the door, but there is no porch.
And we still don't see anybody? We just
haven't seen anybody. No. And then from somewhere up the approximate in the inn somewhere, but toward the upper floors, you hear a bell ringing.
Seems like a fairly lively place.
It's getting noisier closer within.
Yeah.
Okay.
Walk up the door.
You walk up to the door. Somebody tried the handle, I assume.
I'll try it.
Okay. It is apparently barred from the inside. It doesn't have a lock, but when you kind of you can move the door just like a little bit, and it feels like it's stuck on the inside, like it's barred.
And like 3 big knocks, 4.
Okay. You knock, knock, knock on the door.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no immediate answer. But then you hear a female voice say, "Just a minute! Cordial's coming down!"
Okay.
And then it's more like about 3 or 4 minutes. Liam goes off to one side and pees on a bush. Herrick takes the moment to kind of reship the coins and make sure the bags are tied shut. Okay? And you hear a little clunk and grinding of wood from the other side of the door, and the left side door, looking at it, swings inward away from you. And you see a man standing there. He is a human, Caucasian, light-skinned, grizzly beard, kind of gruff, doesn't look like it's well trimmed. Big nose, large nostrils. Not what you'd call handsome per se, but very physical. He's 6'4", probably about 275, 300 pounds, a little roundish in the middle. He's wearing a leather jerkin that has some black scars on it, like it's been burnt. And then tucked in the pocket of the leather jerkin is a pair of what looks to be metal tongs. He smells of some kind of smoke, burning substance. And also, you notice coincidentally that the sound of pounding has stopped in the distance. You don't hear the ringing, pounding anymore. You wonder if perhaps it was him.
So I assume this is the boss.
He's wearing knee-high furry boots. It is cool outside. And at the height in the days, it's been getting to be like in the high 60s. So it's not like it's been hot. And then he says, "Welcome, travelers. Come in, come in." And he swings the door wide and motions for you to enter the tavern. Okay. Tavern will easily seat 60 people, and there's no one in it. Not a soul. He stands by the door. And then as you are just entering, as Liam enters last, and Herrick, there's hooks on the wall next to the door, and Herrick has located the hooks and is hanging up his cloak. Everyone is wet, obviously, because you just waded across the river. And a woman who is probably 5'2", 5'3", blonde, middle-aged, fairly pretty, also fairly physical. She has a curve. She's wearing a short sleeve tunic, and she has a curve to her biceps, even without straining at all. And she's wiping her hands on a cloth apron that she has that she's wearing. And she says, guests! And she rushes forward into the largest table that is near the door, which would seat about 10. It has chairs all around it. There's a stack of trays. The trays are probably 2.5 feet wide, and there's 6 of them. And she comes out and picks the 6 trays up. It probably weighs about 50 pounds, 60 pounds, and she picks them up and pulls them away from the table. And as she's backing away, she pulls out, a couple of the chairs are already extended, she pulls out the chair on that side with her foot. And she says, please, have a seat. There's no fire burning. There are 2 fireplaces in the room, both on the right-hand wall. So going back to the right-hand wall, there's fireplaces, and then there's another coat rack in between. And then beyond the back fireplace, there's a set of bookshelves that has some books on it. And then the back has 2 doors, and between the doors is a stage, like for entertainment, probably 3 foot raised from the floor. And then to the left is a long polished bar, and in front of it are bar stools. And on the one end, there's about a half dozen bar stools that are stacked up near the wall. And then you can see there are kegs with actual taps in them behind the bar. And then there's a gap in the bar, and that's what might lead to the kitchen, and that's where she came from. And then there's the rest of the bar goes toward the back wall. So this is a big bar. Talking probably, standing room only, 120 people, which is not uncommon in taverns, but it's ghost town empty at the moment, except for these 2. It's about 10 in the morning. You think that's, that might not be terribly uncommon, but like usually breakfast crowd or leftovers from last night or something. It's definitely quiet. Okay. She says, are you hungry? I'll get you something to eat.
Sure are.
Liam says, and wet. He looks longingly at the fireplace. It is cool in here, protected from the sun, a 3-story building made of brick. It's probably only like in the high 40s. So you're chilled. Those who aren't heavy armor are chilled because of being wet and then being in that room. He said, and the man says, I'll stoke a fire in the front fireplace. Just give me a few moments. Let me draw you off some mead or ale first. For all of you?
I'll take one.
Yes, please.
So this will be on the house. We don't want to be inhospitable. She says, you want me to get the fire? No, I'll take care of it. You get the food. She heads off toward the kitchen. He goes behind the bar, draws off a flagon, which is basically like a big mug, probably about 40 ounces for each of you. He's getting mead and ale, but he's not asking you which one you want. So there are 6 of you. He draws off 6 mugs, 6 flagons, and brings them to the table. And you'll have to look at them or sample them if you have a preference. And if it works out that somebody doesn't get what they want or doesn't want to drink it because they get the wrong thing, then we'll deal with that. But he doesn't ask who wants what. He just draws out 3 of each. Okay. So he brings them out on a tray, like the ones that she took and set on the bar, and then he just slides the tray on the table, and he says, all in the house. And then he steps back and moves quickly to the fireplace and there's logs already split, stacked there, dry, and there's a bunch stacked next to it and some tools there. And it's like a metal basket with a single thing over the top. It's open on the sides. It's like what you put logs in, but it's a little smaller. And it's got a bunch of shavings in it, and he throws a bunch of shavings up in there, and then he begins to try to make a fire. Pretty soon the fire is burning, and then figure 5 or 10 minutes it'll produce a lot of heat. Now it is 20 feet from your table, so you think it'll take a while for it to really warm up way over here. So if you want to be warm, you probably have to move closer to the fire. Okay. So there are 3 flagons of mead and 3 flagons of ale. Anyone care which one they have? You grab one. Both have good, thick alcohol content, not the kind that make you drunk. But if you drink that whole thing, it could be for a lighter body weight, obviously.
I'll grab an ale.
All right. So Sturd takes an ale, leaving 2 ales and 3 meads.
Klume will take a mead.
Okay. Herrick will take a mead as well, leaving 1 mead and 2 ales left.
Christopher in particular care. So
Okay.
we'll take an ale, see if there are more remaining.
Okay. How lawful of you. Or you could say, well, I'm just pushed along, so I'll just take it. That's chaos then. It turns out Liam is not taking one, so Okay. All right. And Chiron also declines. So there will be one extra of each.
Drink is here.
Drink is too? Okay. All right.
I'll set them in front of me for safekeeping for the time.
If you don't want to miss any of the story, Low Moon Origins, Uprising, or Outsiders, like and follow our podcast. Please share it with friends.
Liam goes over and sits on the stone ledge in front of the fireplace, and you can see steam rising off of his back. He also hung up his cloak, but you can see from his shirt, you can just see a rising cloud of steam. Herrick also goes over. He pulls up a chair and sits with his wet feet toward the fire to dry off his feet and pants and stuff. It's not long, and the woman brings out 2 large trays, 2 of the 2.5-foot trays. She has one on each hand. She comes to the table, slides one down, then she rotates around the table, slides another one down. And on it are 6 large pewter plates. Each plate has 2 large slices of bread that look basically like garlic bread. They have a butter with some green flakes on it, and the butter is not fully cooked in. It's melted and then flaked, not cooked in. And then what looks to be pork bits, it's not a chop or a steak or anything like that, but it's just little chunks of pork. And then each one has about a 10-inch by 4-inch mound of mashed potatoes with a little bit of butter in the center. So you think it's food specifically designed to warm somebody up, and all the plates are hot. Okay.
It's very hospitable, it sure is.
Okay. So she delivers the food, takes the trays, and leaves. After which point in time he reappears and comes and stands at the edge of the table. And Herrick comes back to the table to get food. Liam comes back to the table to get food. Although, you realize, considering they stop steaming as they're walking this way, you're pretty sure it's much colder over here than it is over there. And so there is a bit of a shiver in the air. They did bar the door, by the way, after you came in. All right. Outside, you hear what sounds like barking dogs in the yard of the inn. Okay. He says, "So, I'm cordial. This here's Gull Crossing Tavern. Don't recognize any of you from around here."
We're not. Lovely place.
Bit empty for how big it is.
Yeah, nobody's sticking around much right now. I think everybody thinks it's dangerous.
Why would they think that?
Well, there's a lot of movement in the area. Humanoids on the march and cults doing something to the east. And we've had a lot of refugees come through.
People were just at home and just packed up and leave.
Well, we don't really have anybody that stays here permanently. We had 2 men, a bard and a wagon maker. Yeah, guy who makes wagons. Yeah, it's not coming to him either. Anyway, he says, and they moved on. The wagon maker might come back if things calm down.
Wainwright.
Cartwright.
Cartwright or Wainwright, you know. He says, we ain't had no trouble inside the walls. So, you're welcome to stay. Give you a good price on rooms, and this here first drink and food's on the house. Well, sorta. Had a man come through a few days ago, a paladin. Reiki is his name. He's a paladin of Lion Moon Keep, and he said we'd likely see refugees and good folk like y'all who ain't trying to cause no trouble. And he said we should be hospitable, and he paid for meals and drinks. So, just honor him a word.
I don't know if I recognize that name.
He's saving for the next people. I'll pay for our food and drink.
Well, he paid enough for a while, so
Well, that's one more group that you can.
besides you ain't
For a
even
while
drinking
on.
the drink.
As one more group, you'll be able to share hospitality tools.
I can see with my plain eye you ain't hurting for money. I am going to charge you for the rooms. It's $2 a night. Breakfast included. You're welcome to stay as long as you like. I got 18 empty rooms right now, a dozen singles and 6 doubles. So however you want to do it, it's fine by me. And I think Tammy's got all the rooms cleaned up and ready to go. Stupid dogs. They bark at the birds. Got him, first one. It's a hound named Red. Got him because I thought it'd be a good alarm in case something came over the wall or some critter tried to get after the chickens or something. But then they bark at the gulls like all the time. So you'd think they could figure out that the gulls are not the danger, but they don't. So they just keep barking. Just wait, they're going to bark again in a second. See, not when you want them to. Keeps listening like he's waiting for the dogs to bark. Any second now.
Why are we here again?
No.
It seems it's been so long.
Strangely quiet at the moment.
Are we dropping this boy off somewhere? Yes, we did hear that.
Yes. Well, anyway, will you be needing rooms or any other way I can help you out? I'm a bit of a blacksmith. Oh, there they are.
Yes, I'm sure that I could have some use for a blacksmith. We also were looking for somebody.
We're looking for a woman, a gypsy. Who may have come through town here.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
All the gypsies are down south for now. They traveled south in the cold. Cottrell clan.
We're looking for one that may be separated. Refugee.
Oh, well, there's a few of those around. They, sometimes the young ones grow up and don't fit quite in, so they slip away. Oh, you talking about that young woman, Serena? That one?
Yes.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah, she's friends with my wife. In fact, one second. Tammy! Tammy! She never hears me. I think it's the dogs. Tammy! And then you hear her say, yes? Come here a sec. She comes out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron again. How may I assist you, my beloved? They was inquiring about Serena. Really? Why? I mean, y'all ain't the law.
No. Now, the third here was once her betrothed.
You'll fiance of mine.
Oh.
There was some familial complications.
So, that's amazing. She looks at him. She told me a little bit about a story about a man. Might have been a little bit like you. It could be him.
Maybe a little rounder than.
I was drunk back then, maybe.
Didn't she write you and say something about when she was coming in? She did. She's supposed to be here. A couple days, maybe 3 from now. She looks kind of sad for a second, and her husband have a place up north. He's a furrier, like he sells furs. She looks in the direction of the dogs. She looks at him. She says, "What do you think they're barking at?" He says, "Barking at the birds. They're always barking at the birds." We need to train the dogs to not bark at the birds so we can know what they're barking at.
Or not know what they're barking at. That would be ideal.
Yeah, something like that. Had a boy. He looks at Liam. About your age. Said he could train dogs. Paid him a gold for a month's work. He did manage to get them to stop tussling with the chickens. That was something, I guess. But they still bark at the birds. I don't think I got my money's worth. Anyway, it's gone now. Everybody's gone now. So if you're fixing to spend the night, it's 2 gold, and I'll let you pick your room yourself.
3 nights?
She says, I think they're barking at each other that time. Could be. 3 nights, you say? 6 gold, 6 of y'all. Be 36 gold. That's not right. Let me do that again. 6 gold, 6 y'all.
28. No.
36.
I think.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12.
Sounds like
And 12, 24, 12, 36. Right on. 36 it is. 36 gold.
So you were right the first time.
And now I know that. Pay me 36 gold.
I'll take care of it.
Sure.
You got bags of money, so.
We don't have it on our shoulders.
You have bags of money that you haven't even counted yet. So this is one of those situations where you could pay and you literally will not notice how much is gone because you pay it out of the party treasure, and when you count it, you won't even know what's over there. Anyway, are you paying out of personal funds or party treasure?
Personal funds.
Okay, you're paying personal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I have like 250 gold pieces.
It's like choosing to pay out of post-tax income when you have the option to pay out of pre-tax income.
My pouch is very heavy.
So far.
You just refill his pouch later from one of the bags.
Yeah, I guess so.
Also, you know what else
Sounds
though?
very honorable.
Here's the thing, son. Also remember that you have like thousands or maybe tens of thousands of silver pieces. So you could pay in silver pieces.
That's a good idea.
I'll ask him what he prefers.
He's gonna say gold.
Agree.
Maybe not.
A lot
Actually,
of
you'd probably
laymen
prefer silver if you have it.
He'd probably prefer a mix, I would
A
imagine.
lot of laymen prefer smaller than them.
Yeah. You can take it in silver.
I guess he's not like, there's not a money changer very accessible.
How many silver pieces are one gold piece?
20.
Especially considering he's charging gold for his rooms, so that's probably a large portion of his income. And
Well, it is now. There's nobody else is staying here. Just pay 30 cents. Like, you just infinitely multiplied his income for the day.
Until next year when the next customers come.
Good for it.
I was thinking when you said, "Oh, I'll give you a good price," and then you said 2 gold a room. I was like,
What comes with free
I
breakfast?
guess we have nowhere else to go. So,
All right. Anyway, so 36 times 20 is 720.
Lucas is going to stand up and give the gold, and he will, or silver, and he will take the second flagon of ale because he's already crushed the first one, and let's say, make any arrangements. I'm going to take a walk. And he'll pick up the hammer that he left sitting on his head by the door, and walk outside. And he's gonna take a loop and just look around.
Inside the wall.
Yeah. And he would like to look outside the wall if he can. The dogs are making him nervous.
Okay. Yeah, so the wall is 5 or 6 feet high most places, but right by the inn and by the smithy building in the back and by the mill, like where it comes to the mill, the wall that gets to be like 10 feet high. So it goes down to a level 5, almost in all the mid sections, basically. So you can look over. You just either have to like stand up on something and look across it, or go right up to it, look over it, or whatever.
You can't climb the wall really easily. It's going to slow anything, and it'll keep like wolves. And
It's
stuff.
mostly for animals.
Yeah.
Most walled cities are like that. Walled towns, I should say, are like that. And people can climb over even a 10-foot wall.
Yeah.
You create a 10-foot wall, still people can climb over it.
I was thinking like a goblin could move a rock in front of it and jump over. Like,
It's possible.
say, stir you on my ale.
Somebody want Mr. Nacho
It's sitting where Lucas was sitting. He took this,
When you want some
the
to say
second
onto a
and
cookie.
third undrunk ale. He doesn't have it with him, it's just sitting on the table.
Okay.
I'll drink that.
So-
I'll drink the ale that you offered me that sitting in front of this table.
Liam and Chiron declined to drink their alcoholic beverages when they were initially bought. They're 40-ounce flagons, so they're great big. And he brought 3 meads and 3 ales, and he didn't just differentiate or take orders. He just brought 3 of each, and he gave them to the party. Okay, so she does. The woman, apparently her name is Tammy, does come up and she says, "So sorry for what happened with the gypsies. She told me just enough that it's a sad story."
Time has passed. Will you feel as one of the she's okay?
I'm sure she'll be happy to see you anyway, and to know that you're okay. She told me that she thought you were dead, so it might come as a bit of a shock.
What kind of man is her husband?
Seems okay. Hard working. Always brings in a lot of furs, which we don't buy that many, but sometimes people here do. And sometimes they'll buy them and take them south to sell in the more well-developed towns. But she's mostly coming. I think they're mostly coming down now to get away from the conflict. It's not as bad here, but going north, it's real bad. Bands of humanoids and mercenaries moving east-west, they say, all day long. Oh, and you mentioned that. Did you mention Ethan? You did, right?
Ethan?
Oh, we just mentioned her. Okay. Okay. So when you get outside, Arden,
Yep.
and Lucas gets outside, you see a cobblestone courtyard. There's a low well. It has a low, like 3-foot wall around it, and then it has columns that go up, and the top is completely covered with a metal tiered roof. So if something came from above, it would not be able to get into the well. And the distance between the low wall and the tiered roof is only 4 feet. So, like, to get water out of the well, you have to kind of lean under or get under the roof, basically. And then it's down in the ground slightly, and then there are tiered steps, like stone steps that go up from that, and so it's seating room for probably about 80, because it goes out for
Around the well?
Yep, around the well. But wouldn't only be seating room. It's just tiered steps that go down toward the well, and that's the main feature in the center of the yard. The whole yard is cobblestone around it. The back left wall is consumed by the smithy, which is about 20 feet across in the front, and then goes back as far as the wall, and it's stone and has palisades on the back of it. But the smithy faces the inside, and you can see that there is fire burning in there, and you can smell the smell of it pretty strong. The front left corner is the mill, and it's pretty big, about 40 by 40 at the base, all stone going up, and it actually has a windmill and then also the wheel that is outside for that's in the water, and it is constantly moving, and you can hear faint grinding noises coming from it. The right-hand side, the wall goes around a large corral, and the corral is the biggest part of the whole thing. It's probably like 40 by 50 yards, and it does have a fence. The posts of the fence, or the way the fence is designed, there's posts they're actually set in the cobblestone, and then the horizontal posts come out and they go down to the opposite side, and they come out here and go down, so crisscrossing at every juncture. So in the middle there, it's kind of low, like only about 3.5 feet, but on the poles it's like 5 feet. And then in that yard are 2 large, fairly beautiful, kind of wild-looking horses, and they're in the far corner right now, and they're kind of trotting around. And the soil in there is pretty tore up. It's not cobblestone inside the corral. As soon as you get outside, the dogs come and bark at you. And there you see there are 8 of them. Of the 8, 2 of them are pretty small, and they go at you. But the others are pretty good size. Like 2 are hounds, and they're 3.5 foot at the shoulder, and about 5 foot long. And then the remaining 4 are basically like huskies. They're very big, hairy dogs, and their coats are kind of mangy a little bit, like not real well tended. And then their snouts are longer, like a Great Dane kind of snout, like a long, thin nose. But they still bark pretty heartily, and quite a bit more frequently with you out there. Seagulls dip in and out of the yard, and so even while they're barking at you, they're getting a little bit distracted by the birds. And there's quite a bit of seagull poop on the cobblestones of the yard, and also on the top of all the buildings, and on the top of the well. Walls looks to be in good repair. There is no one else in sight, no other humans. They do have a cow and a chicken coop. Chicken coop's next to the smithy. It looks like it's probably room for maybe 40 or 50 chickens, easy.
Interested in giving financially to Low Moon and support the campaign? Text LMGIVE, that's LMGIVE, to 419-419-0095.
You see a dozen or so wandering around.
Take a look around the courtyard. How warm is it outside?
It is in the maybe right around 50 right now. High 40s, low 50s.
Look around the courtyard, and if he doesn't see anything that catches his eye, then I'll let back inside.
Okay. I mean, it strikes you as if it weren't for the absence of any people here, it's a pretty defensible facility. So the wall is pretty thick. It's only 5 foot high. It's about nearly 3 feet thick. So it's not going to be easily broken down. It does have a... Say again?
Is the wall cobblestone?
It's stone and mortar, like a Michigan basement kind of boulders, basically. Which is basically what the ground is too, but then that's kind of what cobblestone is by definition. They do have 2 cows as well. They're in a small yard by the mill. So, all right. Nothing odd happens. Looks pretty safe. Solid wall. With the smithy, the wall coming down from the smithy to 5 feet, so really the least defensible position is the corral, because the wall is largely 5 feet around most of it. It does peak at the corner, so it gets to be like 8 feet high. There's a kind of a tower there, but it's not like a tower that people could go in. It's more like a wide-based column that rises up to be about 10, 12 feet high. Okay. All right. So you've toured the yard. You feel reasonably confident that nothing is going on at the moment. The dogs did bark at you. They did not try to nip at you. Like if you get near them or kind of stomp your foot, they skitter away. So they're not aggressive. They're just barking a lot. Okay. All right. So you paid for rooms. You have a place to sleep. Meals are not on the house. He gave you the first meal, which was paid for essentially by Reiki, the paladin. But after that, you'll have to pay for your food, and lunch and dinner are 2 silver pieces each. So when the time comes, It's going to cost you 4 silver pieces a day to eat and 2 gold pieces a day to sleep. Okay.
I would like to know who the horses belong to.
Okay. I mean, you can go and ask. Okay. Pretty quickly, Herrick is making an arrangement to go find his room and get changed out of his wet clothes. Everybody that's armor, you're under your armor, your clothing's all soaked, so it's going to chafe, it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's going to take a long time to dry in here. So.
Pick her room as well.
Okay. So you're going to have 6 single rooms. So he said he has 12 single rooms and 6 double rooms available. It's 18 rooms available.
Is there a room that has like a good view of the town?
I mean, there really isn't a town. It's just a walled courtyard. But yes, there is a room you could get that has shutters that you could open and look on the courtyard if you want. There are no rooms on the front of the building that have windows that look out, like outside toward the ford. There is a room up top. It's in the very top that's like an attic room, basically, that they can look out for defensive purposes, that kind of thing. But it's not set up for sleeping in.
Okay.
So there's no way to look out across the ford without being outside, basically. But you can get a room that looks out onto the courtyard.
I'll do that. Just pick a single room.
Okay. And I mean, it'll be on the 3rd floor, and you'll see the entire courtyard, and for that matter, look past the rear wall and out across the countryside, because you'll be 20 feet up in the air, so it'll be a pretty nice view, and it doesn't cost anything extra. So. All right, so you've got that room.
Is there like a fireplace or anything in the room, or is it like?
There's a fireplace in each room. It's small compared to the one that's in the
Stoke fire, dry my clothes, relax.
There's also a bed warmer, so you can, if you get some hot coals, you can put them in the bed warmer, and then you stick it down to the bed, and then it warms up the bedding and the blankets. So was Klume getting a single room for herself then?
Yes, Klume lived in a single room near whoever she followed. Whoever was first to go find a room, she'll follow them. I think it was Herrick. And
yes.
get a room next to him.
Okay. All right. Liam asks Herrick if they can get a double room instead of a single room or whatever. And Herrick says that's fine. He doesn't want to sleep in a room by himself. He's had a rough life recently. Okay. So actually though, that takes up about almost half of the 3rd floor. So you've got a single room. She's got a single room. Herrick's got a double room. That leaves 2 single rooms on the 3rd floor. So if Chiron and Lucas each take a single room on the 3rd floor, you guys will have the entire 3rd floor.
We can all fit on the 3rd floor.
Yep.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. There is a staircase that leads up to the attic room that allows you to go outside, and it's not locked. I mean, to see outside, so it's possible to go up there. There's a staircase that leads down to the 2nd floor.
I'll check out the attic room just in case you need to use it to get outside.
Is there a way to lock the door? Like,
Yes, the door. He gives you skeleton keys to lock the doors.
can I bar it? Like,
Yeah, and if there's a chair in the room, you can wedge up under the handle.
last time I decided to sleep by myself, I woke up with a zombie standing over me, so I'm not.
Being careful. Okay. Yeah, so you can wedge a chair under it. There's a stand that could go in front of it. You also can move the bed over in front of it. Sometimes people do that. The door does open inward toward you, so anything you put in front of it will make it much harder to open. But you do have a window now, too, because you specifically asked for a window.
On
So.
the 3rd floor.
Yes, the 3rd floor window, yeah.
Unless they can jump really high, and I never do that.
Zombies do not jump, as far as you know.
Is winged zombies, maybe?
That's a good idea.
Harpy zombies?
Okay, so the rooms are arranged. Everybody has a key. Chiron's going to check the attic. Meanwhile, is Lucas asking about the horses?
Yes.
Okay. He says, well, I guess they're mine, but they aren't particularly useful to me because they're not broken. I can't hitch them to the wagon. Can't ride them. Anything like that. He says, you know horses?
I would say so. I've had some formal training and more informal training.
I'll make you a deal. You work on breaking them while you're here, and I'll cover your room, and if you manage to break one or the other of them, I'll pay you extra.
It's kind of open to take them off your hands.
Oh, well, that might be able to be arranged as well. But if they was broken, they'd be worth a few hundred gold apiece.
Seems like awful fine horses for wagon work.
Oh, definitely, I agree. Bought them from a guy a couple weeks ago. He just couldn't. He was heading southeast, and he just couldn't take them with him. They were too unruly. But he picked them up in the hills. He says they'd be warhorses if they was broken. I paid him a fair amount for them being unbroken, but my plan is to get them at least calmed down and sell them for warhorses or something like that.
We'll see what I can do. If I manage to break one or both, I'll pay a fair price.
All right. That sounds... Fair price always sounds good to me.
I also wanted to ask you, I had a couple things that I could use a blacksmith for.
All right. Well, I can do that. I can work just about anything that's made of iron.
Very well.
I can do a little bit of the finer metals like tin, silver, copper, bronze, but iron's my real trade. I made all the doorknobs myself, all brass.
Fortunately, I think actually everything I need a blacksmith for, I need a magical blacksmith for. So I don't actually, because repairing my armor requires magical ability because it's magical.
Yeah, but so a good smith can do quite a bit of the repairing. They just might not be able to take it back to be what it was,
Well, and the thing is, my armor's at almost, it's literally, I've taken 1 point off of it. So it would be a nice thing to pop it off and not have to think about it.
Yeah.
If I'm here anyways. Yeah. That's really it. Because I was thinking of that sword that we got, which is not on my sheet. Must have someone else's sheet.
What sword?
Oh no, I do have it. The long sword that they were forging in the fire giant forging. I'm pretty sure we figured out that it was magical, or had a hunch that it was magical, and so it needs to be finished forging, and then enchanted, or finished forging and enchanted, or something along those lines.
Right.
Which I guess I could have him look at it and see whether he thinks I need to find someone who forges and does magical stuff, or if he can finish forging and then I can get it properly enchanted.
Right. All right, so you're just going to show it to him and see what he says?
Yeah.
Okay. He says, well, it's a fine piece of steel. If it finished, it would be, I could make a real nice sword out of it. It's good enough to be enchanted. Somebody that did that kind of thing. There's some dark rituals that people do to add enchantments to blades. I don't have anything to do with that. Also, I suppose there must be a way to do it that's not quite so villainous. But again, I've never done anything quite like that. But I could make it a pretty nice sword just the way it is without magic.
Hold off on that for now.
Okay. Right. Meanwhile, Chiron, you pull it's a hinged set of stairs. You pull them down into the hallway. You walk up the stairs. They creak heavily under your weight, but they're sturdy. And then there's a swinging door. It looks just like one of the doors in the inn. It doesn't have a knob. It has a hole where a knob would go. And push it up on hinges. sits up against the wall, and you can see that up there is a large room. It's about 20 yards by 40 yards. It's a big room. And you can see wood rafters that rise up to a peak, and then you see some cross pieces that are connecting the rafters together so they don't pull apart over time. In the rafters, you see the remnants of some birds' nests, like bits of straw and stuff that birds stuffed up there. But you don't see any active living creatures in the attic, except maybe some cobwebs. Might have spiders in them. And then from the door is about a third of the way back. So from there you can walk forward and you can look out, and there's a louvered window, like the louvers, other things like are in shutters, but these are bigger. They're like, each one's like that big, and they lay on you can look straight down on a 45-degree angle at the fort, and you see the birds dipping in and out. You see the water, it's clear and beautiful. You can even see the bottom where it's 4 or 5 feet deep. You can see all the way to the bottom. Also from here you can see all the way back up the river, several miles, you think. Probably 4 or 5 miles. And you can see here and there movement in the woods. Nothing is nearby. The closest thing is probably half mile away. You see a group of men moving. You're looking, you don't have direction sense, correct?
Correct.
You're looking in the direction of the volcano. From here, you're looking in the direction of the volcano, but you're miles away from there probably. You can see the mountains in the distance, and you can see steam rising. So can't be too far. Can't be more than 30, 40 miles away, the absolute most. But anyway, but looking into the forest, you can see a group of men at that distance, probably a quarter mile away. You can see a group of men moving from the left to the right, so moving towards the river. And can't really make out like arms or arms, but they definitely have something that's longer, like staves or spears or bows or something, because you can see the occasional kind of dark point to the shadow that sticks up further or sticks out further. And they're in the shadows of the trees, so there's no details, just silhouettes. And that's the closest thing you see. And other than that, you see over there's something, there's some animals. I mean,
how steep is the roof? Or is it flat?
So here it's flat, completely flat, but on the sides it's a peaked roof. So like, as you're standing there, you're looking at a flat wall with louvers, but up there behind you is that. So there's nowhere to step out onto.
Oh.
You're in an attic. So the roof is like this over your head.
It was like a hatch out onto it.
No, it's a louvered window. So it's got wood planks that go across it, but they're like at a 45-degree angle.
Is there any way to get onto the roof from here?
No, it doesn't look like there's any designed way. You have to lever out the window or make a hole in the roof, or you can go checking and see if maybe there might be a hatch somewhere like for repairs, but right here you don't see any way.
I'll look around for a hatch.
Okay. I mean, it's a 20 yard by 40 yard, so it's big.
Yeah.
It's like 3 times the size of this room, of the cafeteria.
Yeah.
So you walk along and look between the rafters. The rafters are spaced about every 3 feet. And you look, and they're like 2 by 10s. They're not 2 by 4s, right? Anyway, you do eventually find a spot where there's an obvious rectangle that sits between the rafters, and it's hinged at the top. And then there's a hasp at the bottom, and it has a wooden hole through it with a rope on it. So you can just pull the pole out and lift it up and look outside or climb outside. Mind you, it's a sloped roof like this, so it'll be like a 45-degree slope outside.
Okay. How far off the ground is the hatch?
So it's about shoulder height to you, but that would put it at about 3.5 stories. So about I mean, easily. You pull the hasp out, the shaft of wood just hangs on the rope. Flip it down, push it up, and you see it's hinged. You have to hold it, and it weighs about 40 pounds. So you're pushing it up, holding it up. As long as you hold it up, you can see outside. You're on the left side, looking at the front of the end. You're on the left side, so you see the mill, and you're at right about even with the top of the windmill, not the top of the blades, but the top of the building. And if you look outside, you can see that there are chocks of wood that are attached on the roof that would allow somebody to move around to go up to the top and that kind of thing. They're attached but
They look like they're in decent condition.
yeah, they're a hardwood, like a reddish tint to them, and they look weather worn because they're always outside, but very solid. And they're held in place by what appear to be like metal pins. So it would be like you wouldn't be able to do a lot of this kind of movement. So you have to go up and then come back down in another spot, kind of thing. But it looks like it's designed so they can repair the roof anywhere that it would go bad.
Alright, I'll close it back up and go back down in the room.
I mean, you kind of rattle it. It seems firm, like you doubt somebody could open it from the outside without a pry bar or
Is it
figuring out how to get the hasp to move out of the way.
raining?
It is not raining. The only reason everybody was wet is because you waded through the river to get here.
That's great. Okay, I'll go back to the room and work on my bodybuilding.
Okay. I realize that you have level training, right? No, you don't have level
No, I
training.
don't
You
train.
got the free level.
non-weapon, but I don't. There's no one that can train me in what I want.
Okay. Okay. So what I gather is people are settling in. If you have anything you really need to do, he does, they have a lot of supplies, but they don't really operate a store per se. There's no store here, but they have a lot of supplies that they sell to travelers and stuff. He does suggest that you might be better off with like carrying the money that you have in backpacks or something rather than in bags. But that's up to you, and he has those. He does have a cart, but he doesn't have horses to pull the cart. He has rations. He has just about any kind of general store item you can think of. Tools, flint and tinder, candles, torches, all those kinds of things for sale for reasonable, including arrows, for sale for reasonable prices. And so he's happy to sell you. And every time he sees you, he says, well, do you need this? Do you need that? So he's constantly checking in. Yeah, so he offers arrows, which he can sell you a dozen arrows for a gold piece. They're reasonably good quality.
How many arrows do you have? They're good quality. It's tough buying stuff in the
He has 65 arrows, and he doesn't use a bow, so he's happy to sell them all. 3 gold. Sell all 65 for 3 gold if you want. And now I'll show you a quiver that holds 20 arrows for 1 gold per quiver. Finely crafted leather.
That's a real jack of all trades.
Yes, after spending half a day here, you realize he's a jack of all trades. That's what he is. You begin to get the feeling that he pretty much built this place, like completely,
I was kind of getting that idea.
using labor, obviously. So he paid people to do stuff. It looks like he pretty much built it. The construction looks relatively new. It's probably only been here for less than a few decades. So he and or possibly his father or somebody right before him or whatever probably built the whole thing. Okay. Lunch eventually comes. It is equally good fare. There is considerable alcohol available. He does have wine, although he does not usually sell it before dinner time. But you can get some if you want. And again, he offers flint and steel, rations if you're going to travel on. That kind of thing. He does have 2 saddles, but the horses will not allow themselves to be saddled at this juncture. Pardon?
Yeah.
Catch that? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, the early stage breaking of a horse is usually just to get a bit on him, and then you kind of...
Well, he has the wild elven animal friendship as well, which should make it...
that'll help a lot, but it won't actually get them broken or just get them to cooperate with you specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So, So in that sense, it will actually stand in the way of breaking them. Although you're less concerned about breaking them for him than you are for yourself anyway. At least one of them anyway. Your animal friendship will not allow, say Chiron, for example, to ride one of the horses. You would have to you could use your animal friendship to get him to cooperate, and then he would have to break him enough to get him to... Okay. So are you working on that then at some point in time that day, getting started?
Yes. The only other thing that he has to do today is training volleyball, which will be the rest of the day.
Probably weaponry.
Right.
All of your weapons of choice require 2 hours of training.
Was our
combat training?
Well, didn't we?
Overnight.
Oh.
Yeah, so I would say yes. The combat in the woods probably would qualify as today. It was after midnight. So. But that doesn't mean you used all of the things you needed. You have to, and you can train with lance without a horse. You just train with it on foot. Okay. Before dinner, so you're now on until like 3 or 4 o'clock. I assume if you have bodybuilding training or weapon training you needed to do, you did that in the gap, or you took a nap of your choice.
How long has it been?
That would be, we've been here for about 5 hours.
Klume will ask his steward to train her during that time, because he's been training her on the longbow.
Okay.
5 more. Like 3 more.
I got a few arrows.
Mind you, you didn't sleep overnight, so everyone's kind of dragging. Then again, if you go to bed now, you won't sleep tonight, or at least not as much as you'd like. So get some bow training going on. The dogs bark at the arrows. You think she's getting pretty good. She seems to have a sort of a knack with weaponry, and when you've seen her before, you've noticed that she looks like she feels pretty comfortable with almost any weaponry in hand.
Nice.
But she definitely was unpolished with the bow, and it's becoming more so. Okay. Also, everyone is aware that Lucas has begun to work with 2 large warhorse-like creatures. And are we good? All right. Just before dinner, the smells of roasted meat begin to kind of spread throughout the yard, and you realize, oh, hey, got to be getting close to dinner time, and there's no super rush to train right now. You're sore, you're tired, you've been up for now approaching 40 hours, so you decide to go get something to eat, whatever. And on the way into your room, Tammy steps out into the hallway. So you're coming from the back side of the building. From the side, you go into the main room, and then you take the spiral staircase to the 1st floor, and then it's a regular staircase up to the 3rd floor. And she steps in the hallway, and she's wiping her hands on a towel. She's always wiping her hands, it seems like. And she says, well, that was all very interesting, wasn't it? Learning how to use a bow, huh?
Yes.
I always wanted to do that.
Sure you got a steward?
No one ever stays around long enough.
That is the life of travelers.
Yeah. I can use a crossbow enough to get by. I use it to hunt small game, especially when they stray near. Anyway, I'm peeling potatoes for dinner. Would you like to help?
I'd love to. Let me get dressed into something a little less dirty.
She laughs. I'll be in the kitchen.
I'll be there.
Okay. All right. So you change, get washed up, whatever. Leave most of your heavier stuff in your room, probably. I assume keep your daggers on you just in case. And then find your way to the kitchen. It is a finer kitchen you have never seen. I mean, it's a big room, counters all the way around the outside, easily suitable for 5 or 6 people to be cooking in. It's not like a one-person deal, but she's the only person working in it. And mind you, right now there are only 6 guests. So, but she's got a pot boiling on a stove, which is has wood burning in it. It's a wood-burning stove. And she's begun to peel the potatoes, and she offers you a small, sharp knife and hands over some potatoes that are like this big to peel. And she says, if there's any brown in the middle, you can just cut it out. We'll throw it away or feed it to the dogs or something. Okay. And then while you're cooking, two things are happening. One, she's talking to you off and on about cooking, and so there's possibly some things to be learned. But then on top of that, she's also talking to you about things that she's heard from travelers by. So, which you know very little about this area, and so her rumors could be valuable insight as far as what might be going on. You've already heard that there's essentially war to the north. The gypsies are sometimes in this area, and that they're more southward now. That there's trouble in the woods, because you saw that yourself, and I kind of had to fight your way here. But you don't know much more than that. Almost there. There we go. Okay. She tells you that some travelers came in from the south, actually, headed north, and Cordial, that's her husband, that's the innkeeper's name, is Cordial. And he says he's pretty sure they were mercenaries. But they had a young one amongst them, a little more than a boy, really. And he sat up with her one night talking, sipping honey mead and telling stories. He told the tale of a village to the south that had been overrun by undead. And the mercenaries were there looking to see what had happened to everybody, searching the buildings, looking for a place to stay for the night as sun fell, and a fog came up, and they were set upon by undead, and 3 or 4 of their number were slain before they escaped. And they also lost 2 or 3 horses in the engagement. Sounds remotely familiar to you. And every time the dogs bark, she stops and looks in that general direction.
Okay. Check out The Moment Blood Bowl wherever you buy books. This is written by Pastor Daniel Stevenson, the longtime author and game master of Low Moon Adventures.
It also tells you that there is one tavern north of here before you get back to civilized lands. It's on what people call the high road. Runs paralleling the mountains due north and slightly east of here. Do you have direction sense? Or navigation? Okay, so you're not sure what she means, but you think. So you think that from the front of the inn toward the volcano, that is east. That's where the sun came up this morning, behind the mountains. So you think that's east. So north would be that way. Volcano, that way. So away from the way you came from. You came from the south, generally speaking. Anyway, and she says that inn, which is on the high road going north, there was an elderly couple that came down from the mountains. He was a prospector, and they lived up there, pretty secretive. And they said that the innkeeper from the inn on the high road is often mysteriously absent during a full moon. When the moon is full, there's no one in the inn, no one running the inn, except maybe some servants or whatever. And so if you go north along the high road and stay at that inn, you probably should buy some cordials like garlic or wolfsbane or something, just in case. And 3 paladins came through from the west, and they were headed into the northern Pan Reach to ply their hand at trying to diffuse some of the turmoil. And they told a tale of a city in the northern rebel states, which are those are the towns and villages and provinces that rebelled from the Rome lands during the Elven Scourge. She's like searching to see if you know anything about that.
Do I?
No, never heard of it really.
I don't think so.
Well, anyway, there was an Elven Scourge of the Rome lands, and a bunch of those cities and provinces kind of rebelled against the Rome lands during that time because they'd all been conquered before in the last few hundred years. But when the Rome lands was struggling, they broke off. Now they call them the rebel states. And there's a city there in the northern part of the rebel states, and there's a guy. Anyway, she says some people call him the Raven, and apparently he's like a vigilante. And whenever somebody commits a crime, he hunts them down and makes sure they get punished. But he's not on the law side. He just justice, not law. It's in one of the cities in the northern rebel states, which made me think there's one there called Snowcure, and because of where they came from, I think that's probably where they're talking about. It's the only big city for 100 miles, so. What about you? You heard any rumors?
For a few. Just in passing. Take them all with a grain of salt. After all, they are just rumors.
Yeah, I agree. But can't deny the usefulness of a grain of salt.
That's very true.
Right? So she seems friendly enough, talkative. She's also teaching you things about cooking. Roll a d20. So you have gained the equivalent of 3 hours training toward the non-weapon proficiency cooking. If you ever want to take it, you will have 3 hours training toward it already, even though you only worked with her for less than an hour. So, okay, dinner is.
What's her name?
Tammy. Yep. Dinner is done, and presumably everyone eats. Post dinner, you feel, if you haven't napped yet, which I don't think any of you have, you feel pretty worn out. You're approaching 48 hours awake. Lucas, in particular, probably had to cut off actually doing much writing because of the jarring effect of the structural damage.
Yeah.
So you felt like there was a chance that if you did a lot of writing, especially with them bucking some and like that, that you could put a bone through a lung or something. So
Yeah.
probably have to be a little careful.
Probably go to bed a little early.
Yeah. Okay. After dinner, Cordial comes around to each room and delivers a clean towel and a rag and offers that you can use the showers or the bath if you wish. But they are not drawing a bath for this evening, so if you specifically want a bath rather than a shower, you have to draw the water yourself.
Where is the bathroom?
It's all in the back of the in building, basically. The back area where the stage is, then it goes to the left. There's a spiral staircase that goes up, and right behind the spiral staircase is a door to the back, which is just bath and meeting room. It's meeting rooms and bath area. And the front quarter is the kitchen, and then there's ground floor rooms over here, which is their rooms and a couple of the doubles. So basically, the bath is a big 4 foot deep, 5 foot in diameter wooden barrel bottom, basically, kind of thing, held together by brass rings. And you can draw water from the well and fill it. There is a stove, and there's 2 bathrooms, 2 rooms with baths in them. And there's a stove in there that you can use to heat the water if you want. But the process of drawing yourself a bath and heating the water would take hours. So he does say that they'll once a week, sometimes twice a week, especially if they have more patrons, they'll draw the baths and then offer them for a small fee. But it's too much work for them to do it when there's not enough people around to use it. It takes several hours for Tammy to draw the bath. So he brought a towel and a rag for each person, and a small square of soap if you want to use it. Animal soap, all part of the room price. And then before dark, after dinner, before dark, he goes back out and does a little bit of smithing work, and you hear the clanging of the smithy again. As it gets pretty dark, you hear less and less gulls in the distance, and accordingly, less and less dogs barking. Water continues to trickle by all night. You hear it, and the fireplace in the front of the inn was kept burning all the rest of the day. And when you went down for dinner, it was warm. The front of the big room was warm. If you want to have a fire in your room all night long, you have to bring up more wood, because there's only about 6 or 8 pieces of wood in each room. Okay, and he doesn't charge. There's a limited amount of wood that's already split, so you might have to split some if you want to keep doing that. It seems like that's a community thing, that everybody splits their wood. Okay? Anything after dinner before you go to bed?
Klume will just kind of shares a couple of the rumors, specifically the one of the raven up in the northern states that she heard in the kitchen from him.
Okay. So do any of you know over dinner she mentions that there's a vigilante that they call the Raven, probably in a city called Snoker, in the northern rebel states. She kind of acts as if she doesn't know much about the rebel states or that part of the world. Do any of you know anything about it?
I don't think so.
I grew up in nowhere, so
Okay.
not in the middle of nowhere by the rebel states, in the middle of nowhere by London.
Yeah, so the Pam Ridge, which is above Low Moon, it's not too far from the rebel states, probably 400 miles from the edge, but that doesn't mean you knew what was going on. Okay. So you don't know what she's talking about with the Elven Scourge of the Rome lands, but you do know that vigilantes that take matters in their own hands can be dangerous at times. Okay. Anything after dinner before going to bed? All right. You do notice that after dinner, Cordial did set a lute out on the stage, but he did not play music. So if any of you play, you can play the lute. If not, you're more of a dancer than a singer.
Yeah.
You long for someone to play the lute so you can dance. You don't really need somebody to play the lute so you can dance. You practice dancing every day. So.
Yes.
Okay. Anything special about going to bed? Are we posting a guard? Are we just all sleeping behind locked doors?
Barring the door.
You have the entire 3rd floor, so.
Yeah, Klume just bars her door, falls asleep rather quickly.
Close your shutters, try to lock those.
Traumatized.
I slept alone one time and then I got attacked.
One.
You should have shared a room with the kids.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
I had a room by myself and shot a random guy that was trying to do something, I don't know.
Yeah.
I woke up
I
to
was there.
I didn't even wake up. That was what was funny. I slept through all of it.
I was there to help. Nobody was there to help me.
Okay. Checking to see if anything happens in the middle of the night. At least several hours goes by with no untoward circumstance.
Stay tuned for more Lomunian adventures.